I just want to start off this video by saying I did like Dragon Ball Daima overall. In comparison to Dragon Ball Super, it was consistently of a higher quality, and its lows never got as low as Super, but by that same token, I don't think it ever reached quite the same highs. This video, therefore, is not a hate video of Daima, as I will be entirely focusing on the brand new Super Saiyan 4 form that appeared in the final episodes of the show, and explaining why, for me, this transformation was ultimately disappointing, especially in comparison to transformations in Dragon Ball that have come before it. While it was the best animated fight in Dragon Ball history, as an actual part of the greater story of Dragon Ball, well, it's not even the best Super Saiyan 4 form we've ever seen. Before you tell me I'm wrong, I at least ask that you hear what I have to say. I'd rather not have this video's thumbnail be turned into a Twitter screenshot by someone who didn't listen to my points. Still, if you like this kind of stuff, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's jump right in. Now, at least based off of this poll that I did, my feelings about the form are definitely in the minority of the Dragon Ball fanbase right now, with 90% of fans voting that they liked this form and thought it was good. Now, obviously, dividing complex and nuanced opinions into a yes or no might not fully capture the exact feelings of a community, but it's something to go off of. Plus, the reveal of Super Saiyan 4 essentially saved Daima's popularity, or at least gave it a huge boost. You can watch this fantastic video by Totally Not Mark, going over how the start and middle of Daima were incredibly middling popularity-wise, but jump to the final episodes with Super Saiyan 4 in them, and clips of different scenes were blowing up with literally tens of millions of views on Twitter. While Super Saiyan 4 is not entirely responsible for this, I think it's naive to say it wasn't a majority of what drew attention back to Daima. And that makes sense. New forms have always been some of the biggest moments in Dragon Ball, going all the way back to Super Saiyan and even Kaioken. Probably the last time Dragon Ball had a moment this big was with Ultra Instinct. Plus, with Daima having no manga, this was a completely unexpected reveal, especially with this essentially bringing an old form with a huge fan base into the modern era of Dragon Ball, something most people had probably written off as literally impossible. So as a shocking and hype-generating reveal, especially when the fights that follow the transformation are the best Dragon Ball has ever looked, it makes sense why everyone came out of it feeling mostly positive. But when you remove all the flashy animation, aura farming, and new toy syndrome, what are we actually left with? In my opinion, really nothing of substance, especially when, again, we've seen this exact form be literally the best written parts of previous series, that being Dragon Ball GT. So let's get into my issues with the new Super Saiyan 4. My first and primary issue with Super Saiyan 4 and Daima is that it seems like everything was intentionally done to make the reveal of the form as shocking and unexpected as possible, by having literally zero foreshadowing of a new form in any sort of capacity, which included intentionally leaving red herrings in a story that wasn't even a mystery. Most notably, pretty early on in the show, it goes out of its way to establish that Goku has join bugs, which allow people to eat them and then fuse into a more powerful being. Then, for a bunch of episodes, it's not mentioned at all, obviously allowing attentive viewers to potentially predict that it would be these that allow Goma to be defeated. Many assumed the big mystery would be who Goku would fuse with. Vegeta, Shin, Glorio? This is a narrative principle known as Chekhov's gun, where if you establish an element in the story early on, by the end of the story you should deliver on that said element. For example, if you establish someone in the story has a gun, by the end that gun should have been fired. In this instance, it's established Goku has access to a new kind of fusion, something insanely vital to Dragon Ball. I mean, everybody loves Vegito and Gogeta, and then literally nothing comes of it. Now, while Chekhov's gun is not a hard rule in any way, not following it and in fact actively undermining it makes the story feel incredibly frustrating as a viewer. At least to me, it feels intentionally deceptive to establish something like this, only for the actual solution, being the Super Saiyan 4, to be something literally impossible to predict. I wouldn't have this issue if there was literally anything done within Daima to show that a new Super Saiyan form could even happen, but that simply doesn't exist in the show. In fact, even other characters do not see this form coming, with even Vegeta, the only other guy who could even potentially have a clue on Super Saiyan 4, has no idea it was coming. With Goku's only explanation being like, oh, I trained for a bit, but I didn't know if I could use it. Now, to be fair, in the past, I have defended forms without much or any foreshadowing like Super Saiyan 3, but the thing is that foreshadowing isn't necessary for a transformation to be good, and Super Saiyan 3 remains good because it has a clear narrative and thematic function in the Buu Saga, and its design is a clear visual communication of that theme. This segues nicely into my second major issue with Super Saiyan 4 and Daima. It feels completely disconnected from the rest of the story, which is compounded with it being completely unexplained. If I asked you right now, what is Super Saiyan 4 and Daima, you would barely be able to give an in-depth answer that wasn't just visual observations, headcanon, or just describing Super Saiyan 4 from GT. Either way, these descriptions would come nowhere near the specific detail of other Super Saiyan forms, or just other forms in Dragon Ball in general. Hell, even Super Saiyan Blue just being Super Saiyan God who went Super Saiyan is a more in-depth and satisfying explanation for a form than just I trained and Neva helped me. But for Daima, why does he have a tail now? Why is he hairy? Why did the shape of his arms change? How did Goku actually know this form was even possible, and what did Neva actually do to allow it to happen? It feels pretty obvious the reason the form looks the way it does is that this is what the original Super Saiyan 4 generally looked like, and it's a callback. But the issue is that GT's Super Saiyan 4 design actually visually communicates what it is, how it's achieved, and what separated it from previous Super Saiyan forms. None of this is communicated in Daima. Now, the last thing I want to do is write my own way to explain the form within the show, or rewrite Daima to make it more satisfying, or redesign the form to better fit the story, but due to the seemingly intentional lack of information and explanation, there's not all that much more I can say besides looking past its build-up and appearance. So, what does Super Saiyan 4 actually do? Now, like I said with Super Saiyan 3, a form with no build-up can still be good if it informs the narrative afterwards, but Daima Super Saiyan 4 doesn't do this at all, which is again made all the worse with how nothing about it is explained, and its visual communication is taken from another series, where its design makes sense and is explained, while also informing the themes of GT. Even GT Super Saiyan 4 creates retroactive foreshadowing with the Golden Uzaru design. Meanwhile, all Goku does in this form is fight Goma as a kid, and lose, and then fight Goma as an adult, and still lose. Ultimately, all it says in the story is that Goma is really strong, and that was pretty much already communicated a million different ways already with all the fighting that had been happening. It feels reductive to describe these events in this way, but because none of the themes or character interactions or events in Daima leading up to this point were implying or leading to Super Saiyan 4, it winning or losing doesn't change anything. Now, I hate making arguments like this, but nothing changes about Daima's overall narrative if Goku was just in Super Saiyan 3 and Neva just healed him, something I really can't say about any other Super Saiyan form, especially in Z. One complaint that I don't have about the form, though, is how it may impact canon. A lot of people have been making criticisms about how this form and how Goku uses it is essentially shattering the continuity of Dragon Ball, but this is the least bad thing about it. Simply treat Daima as its own continuity. This is not the first nor the last time Dragon Ball Media has created a new canon. But with all that being said, I wish I liked Daima Super Saiyan 4 more, but as this video shows, the more I think about it and compare it to the thing it's inspired by, the more disappointed and confused I am. So please, if you do like Super Saiyan 4 and Daima, let me know why you like it and what I'm missing. I don't like being this negative, and I'd love to have my mind changed on something like this. As always, thank you to my members who got to see this video early, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.